Hello, my divinities. Welcome, welcome. So I've got some news. Um, I need to finish setting up our space here, but I get very excited because there's a lot of changes in the world right now, and I was having a conversation with one of my clients on, I forgot what day. It was a few days ago, a couple of days ago. Friday, I believe. And out of nowhere, I was talking about the reading that I had done on Saturday. Or it was Saturday, maybe. Whatever. No, it was Sunday. Whatever. It was one of those. And I was talking about the reading I had done on Saturday about the USA's karma basically catching up to them, catching up to us. And I had a download while I was talking about it. I was like, yeah, it's the, okay. So I think I've mentioned before that I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, right? And one of the things that I respect about Jehovah's Witnesses above other Christian faiths is that Jehovah's Witnesses actually research what they're teaching, unlike other Christians. So, that's why they don't celebrate Christmas, because they understand it comes from a pagan source. They don't celebrate Easter. They don't celebrate birthdays. All the things that normal Christians do, they don't do because they understand the source, that it's not, if they're going to stick to what they believe is pagan and non-pagan, they're not going to celebrate it. And one of the other things that they do that is very different is they study the prophecies. And one of the prophecies that is very in-depth, they even have a whole book just for that prophecy, is the book of Daniel. And in the book of Daniel, it talks about vision after vision that Daniel was having about these beasts that were rising from the ocean, and what they did and how they fell. And basically, the Jehovah's Witnesses have been matching up events with each of these beasts, and they realized that each of the beasts represented an empire. The first beast, I believe, represented the Babylonian Empire. The second beast represented like the Egyptian Empire, I believe. The third, I forget, because it's been ages since I've looked at that information. But basically, each of those beasts represented an empire that lasted for so long, and in the prophecy it tells you how long it'll last, and then they fell. So what I believe, this is just my belief, right? What I believe that Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses have misinterpreted, is that when the Bible is talking about the end of days, when any religion is talking about the apocalypse, it is not that, the entire earth is going to shatter or all humans are going to die. It's the fact that the world is going to change so much that we are not going to recognize it. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because in the book of Daniel, it mentions that the last beast, well, this is what Jehovah's Witnesses believe, right? And they've studied, they've nailed down dates, a lot of things that are really, really important. The last beast that rose and fell was the Anglo-Saxon Empire, which is Britain, the British Empire, and the USA Empire. And they're connected because the USA Empire is a branch of the British. They speak the same language, they use the same methods. The colonizers, they were both colonizers. Just like, once upon a time, the Romans were colonizers, the Greeks were colonizers. So that, to build an empire, it requires oppressing others. It requires taking away the culture, the history of other people, erasing the genocides that are committed just to not, make themselves look bad, when in reality you can't ever fully rid yourself of that. Every person that looks into history and that studies history understands just how bloody the hands of anybody who builds an empire is. So, I'm saying all that to say this goes beyond the USA, guys. It's global because the British Empire and the USA Empire have reached globally. That's why English is the number one language, because they have touched countries that they should never have influenced. For example, This started back in what, November, when the Maori people, that's when I first noticed, like, there's a spark of change, because the British tried, they feel like they can run New Zealand, right? When New Zealand already had its inhabitants. And the current government is not really working for the people. It's working for the British Empire. So the Maori people are getting kind of sick and tired of it, of like, this is our land. You are a guest here. And that was when I first noticed the spark. And even the reading started reflecting that, right? Divine Feminine Rising. It's going to be the fall of the Anglo-Saxon Empire, which means the British will most likely have to how to put this? I'm not really sure if they're going to have to withdraw their political influence over places like New Zealand. There's a lot of other places that they've influenced, but it's been a constant thing to try and stay in power. And they have proven time and time again that the only way that they can stay in power is by oppressing others, by taking the rights of others. And so I'm not sure what today's reading has to do with it, but I was drawn to this very business deck. So I don't know if today's reading is going to be very focused on the economy and how things are going to get. But I'm going to warn you right now, this is going to be a global thing. Now, is it going to be a war, a full-out war? I don't know. They haven't really clarified that. I do know that political tensions are going to get very high, but it goes beyond just Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have kind of lit the match, because I don't know if you've been keeping up with the news, but Elon Musk, after the inauguration, went to Germany and gave a speech to youths who, support Hitler's bullshit. And he was telling them, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You don't need to be ashamed of your heritage. It's okay to be, Aryan and proud. Because here's the thing. What Hitler did and what Trump is now doing comes down to eugenics, where they're trying to weed out people who carry genes that are very strong, like Native American genes, like Black genes, brown genes, anybody that is different. So, for example, I mentioned in the last reading, and this is relevant, it might take a little while, but this is going to be our intro for this reading. I mentioned in the other reading that Trump has, in this country, he is persecuting the brown immigrants, and yet in South Africa, he is extending a welcome to the refugees, because their apartheid has ended. So white people feel like they are being attacked. The racist ones, just the ones that have that entitlement, not all the white people, but the racist white people from South Africa who now don't have the power and the privilege that they used to have, feel attacked, and he's opening the doors of the United States to them. Do you see the difference? It's not about immigration, because if it was about immigration, he would not be sticking his nose in South Africa. It is about what type of immigrant you are. If you have blonde hair and blue eyes, he is going to welcome those immigrants. But if you are brown and you have brown hair, brown eyes, or you're just a little too dark, no. Because he's trying to resurrect what Hitler didn't finish. And it's the same thing. It's that Anglo-Saxon superiority, sense of we are better, we are superior in some way, and that is disgusting, and we are going to discuss that today. But again, I don't know why I was drawn to the business deck, but let's see. What does this have to do? Okay, the first card we've got is Believe. It says, say yes to believing in yourself and in your business vision. Move forward knowing that your success is assured. So I was thinking maybe this is like the time to start, those of you who have a vision that you've been wanting to put out, now is the time. Because, yeah, I really feel like the whole world is going to change dramatically. Do I think the United States as it is going to fall? Yes. How or what that means, I don't know. Not yet. But the judgment day isn't just for the United States, it's for the empire that Britain and the United States both have contributed to. Okay, so we've got elevate. New mindsets, new results. Elevate your mindset if you want to get different results. If you keep thinking and acting the same way, nothing will change in your business. And then we've got balance. Manifest amazing business results by staying in balance. Work hard, but take breaks to get back into ease and flow. Feel the joy as you work. I feel like this is aimed like to a very specific group. People who are possibly thinking about being leaders in some way into this new world. Especially if you believe that you bring some clarity to the current situation. I feel I need two more here, and two more fell out. Okay. We've got collaborate. Business can be lonely. Find lucrative ways to collaborate with others to build both of your brands. And then we've got speak. Take center stage. Speak at events, conferences, and workshops. Share your message and transform lives through your work. Yeah. So this is for those of you who believe that you can help this transition. If you feel like your message could help the world the way it is now transition into the new world order that is coming, now's the time. Brainstorm. Keep fresh ideas flowing for your business. If you feel stuck, take some quiet time with your journal and write down everything that comes. So I'm not trying to scare you guys. This is about me trying to keep you informed, okay? If you feel like this is overwhelming, just click off. Don't watch it. But I do feel Trump is necessary. Trump is a necessary evil because it's like he's giving a lot of boldness, and Elon Musk, they're giving a lot of boldness to people who always felt this way. And it's bringing them out of hiding, right? It's exposing their colors. So allow it, but also remember that a lot of people who fall for their bullshit are very simple-minded people. They have like a childlike mentality. And I remember back in 2017, I thought Trump was great back in 2017 because I had been raised, for 27 years, I had been raised in a very Christian household, very strict household. I had never really been allowed to take decisions for myself or think for myself, unfortunately. So I had a very childlike mentality at the time. I believed very traditional conservative things, very traditional conservative values is what I held. And 2018 is when I started shadow work and everything shifted. It's like the world opened up. In fact, I want you to think of it like I had been seeing life in a very linear way at the time. When I was 27, 28, I was still very, very linear, very one-dimensional. It's either black or it's white. I did not understand complexity. I did not understand spectrums. And so I was easily shocked, easily offended by a lot of things. And once I got into shadow work, it was like my whole world just expanded. And now I understand when I look at people who support Trump, I honestly feel a little sorry for them. I understand that their mentality is very simple, very childlike, because they have not really, they don't have the open mind. I've never seen, never, and this is like ever since 2017 till now, I have never seen an open-minded person support Trump, ever. The people who support him are narrow-minded, like, because they don't have an expansive worldview. And I'm not saying that they're evil people, because I refuse to believe that every person that supports Trump is racist. I think maybe half of them might be, and the other half are just very simple-minded. So this is a good time for us to remember that this goes beyond politics. This goes beyond right-wing, left-wing. This goes beyond liberal or not liberal, conservative. It goes beyond that. This is going to be a worldwide, global movement where an entire empire, wherever it touched, that it's going to shatter. And all of the values that they tried creating will also shatter. So let's get started. Clarify believe. What do we need to know about believe? Because clearly this is very much about 6 of Geodes, Virgo, Venus, with the 7 of Teacups, Cancer, Neptune. So not only does the card itself say believe, like believing in yourself, believing in your vision, and believing in your success, right? But the 6 of Geodes, Virgo, Venus, is a very service-oriented energy. So it's almost like if you know that the message you convey, or the healing energy that you bring, is going to make an impact in the world, is going to possibly help people who might start feeling lost, because unfortunately hate crimes will start rising. That's why I said I don't want to scare y'all, but that because of the current political climate, hate crimes will start rising. We're going to start seeing like the KKK, the Proud Boys, all that type of start doing their meetings, start proselytizing, because now they're not going to be scared. They're going to realize, oh, we are in power now. And remember, this is like a fever. Think of it like a fever. You know, a fever has to reach a certain point to be able to break. So you're going to have to just do what you can to stay safe out there. If you are in a neighborhood that you feel like is not safe for you, move. I do believe that our economy is going to be impacted. So if you, well, we'll get to that later. Well, actually, no. There's a reason. Okay, never mind. There's a reason. Because we're talking about Virgo Venus, right? Virgo is very, it's your daily tasks. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because it just clicked. I was like, oh, that's why Virgo came out. If you are somebody who knows how to do things that not a lot of people know, this is your time to teach others. So for example, because remember, a lot of adults out there, regardless of political, you're going to have to remove political opinions, because if we are, I'm going to have to, even myself, I'm going to have to really try and stop mentioning Trump or anybody connected to him, because it goes beyond that. He is just a symbol. He's just a symbol. But because our economy will be impacted heavily, and not just ours, I believe worldwide, we're going to go again through like the Great Depression. Now, during that time, it was a lot more sensible to do a lot of things for yourself, right? So canning, baking, making your own soap, that type of thing. If you know how to do any of those things, now is the time to share that message. Because, you know, I think that there's a lot of people out there who put out content, but their content is very geared towards, you know, how to build wealth and how to get famous or how to get fit. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but the type of content we're going to need is how to survive the upcoming disaster. So like there's channels out there that will teach you, like let's say that we're going to have an issue with Canada, right? And Canada has a lot of power grids for the United States, which means that if Canada decides to shut off those power grids, we are going to be SOL. Well, not me specifically, because I'm in Texas, but people who are in the northern states might die, because the winter up there is brutal and they're not going to have heat. Or if it's during the summer that it happens, they're not going to have, or we down south might die out of the heat. So it depends. Right now is the time to learn how to do things where we might be in a very primitive lifestyle for a little while. And so now would be the time to start figuring out how to learn things, how to learn to filter rainwater, maybe learn to grow your own vegetables, learn to bake your own bread, learn to whatever skills you think you're going to need to survive. And this is not trying to create panic. On the contrary, I'm trying to prepare you, because I don't think this is going to happen immediately. I think it's going to be a very slow and gradual rise. But it will happen, because the Seven of Teacups, Cancer, Neptune. Funny enough, the United States itself is a Cancer sun. It was born July 4th. So it is a Cancer sun, and I believe that there's a lot of mentality that the United States is the best country in the world. We've all been brainwashed with that until you travel to other countries and you're like, but it's not though, And I myself used to struggle with that because I had also been brainwashed with that, right? Until I went and saw other countries and I realized other countries have good things too. They have things that might even be better. And I've noticed that people from the United States get very upset when they hear anybody questioning the superiority of their country. And so it's like, this is the time where we're going to have to learn. And if you're part of the process, just even if you start off and you feel like nobody's listening, keep going, because at some point they will start listening. Okay? Clarify, elevate. So we've got the Nine of Katanas, which is Libra Jupiter, and the Five of Arrows, which is Sagittarius Sun. With the Nine of Arrows, Sagittarius Mars. So Sagittarius is a few things. It is a teacher energy. It is a student energy. But it also deals with higher learning. It deals with the education system. Well, like high school and above. Excuse me, I got hiccups. It deals with the legal system. It deals with religious systems, spirituality as well. So when it's talking about elevate your mindset, this is going to be the time where there's going to be a lot of information coming out. And it might feel a little overwhelming because there's going to be information coming out that people might not want to acknowledge. So for example, I've realized that a lot of people from the United States only like history when it paints our country in a good light. They refuse to acknowledge any history that shows that we have been the bully or that we have been the abuser or the oppressor. They really struggle with that, which is why critical race theory was not approved in a lot of states and a lot of schools, because people are scared of their children discovering that they were monsters. So due to that, unfortunately, we are repeating the same mistakes from history because nobody understands that they're literally recreating a pattern that already happened. If you're somebody who's interested in learning about the things that need to be taught, start looking up, I forget if it's called the Tuskegee, like a lot of people don't realize that in the pursuit of, hold on. Here we go. There's a book called Bad Blood. And that is, it's teaching you how from 1932, hold on, from 1932 to 1972, the United States Public Health Service conducted a non-therapeutic experiment involving over 400 black male sharecroppers infected with syphilis. The Tuskegee study had nothing to do with treatment. Its purpose was to trace the spontaneous evolution of the disease in order to learn how syphilis affected black subjects. The men were not told they had syphilis. They were not warned what the disease might do to them, and with the exception of a smattering of medication during the first few months, they were not given health care. Instead of the powerful drugs they required, they were given aspirin for their aches and pains. Health officials systematically deceived the men into believing they were patients in a government study of bad blood, a catch-all phrase black sharecroppers used to describe a host of illnesses. At the end of this 40-year death watch, more than 100 men had died from syphilis or related complications. And then afterwards, they were just released into a community without being told what they were carrying. That's just one of the things that they do not teach you in school. The experiments conducted on communities that were not Anglo-Saxon are horrific. Horrific. Like, I'm going to start crying if I go into each and every one. You need to educate yourself on what the United States and the British government, but we live in the United States, so I know a lot of you are going to be interested in that. But if you do not live in the United States, you need to go look at what the British government has done. Even though I've got to say the USA has taken the cake. They've taken the cake. You need to go look up what the Trail of Tears is. You need to go look up the experiments that the CIA was conducting on Harlem and what type of drugs they released into those communities. Go look up the origin of the police force, how they were trained as slave catchers. And even now, in the academy, they are trained to racially profile black and brown people as dangerous because that's their origin. That's how they were created. In the medical field, doctors are taught that black and brown people don't feel the same pain that white people do. There's so much. So, I'm saying all that because the Elevate, it's about, we've got to change the way people see things. We've got to educate others. And if you are a person of color, and you know these things, and I'm only saying this because I've seen a lot of people say, I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to educate people. I'm tired of trying to tell them the truth. They don't want to know the truth. Guess what? Now is the time. Even before they didn't want to, now is the time. So put yourself out there. Make a name for yourself. Now, Libra Jupiter is here, so it's about seeing. I would not suggest using this history to attack others, only because a lot of people who are now part of the Anglo-Saxon, community, they're not aware of their history. They're not aware of the horrors that their ancestors brought to others. Like, a lot of people don't even know what buck breaking is. That's a horrific term that I need you to educate yourself on what it means and why it was done. It is sickening. Sickening, guys. And if you are somebody who wants to change the world and you want to contribute to this conversation, you need to educate yourself first. Is everybody going to like what you have to say? No. But that's why Libra energy came out like, respond from an elevated place. Do not engage in petty back and forth, angry words. You can be passionate, but make sure that you stay diplomatic, remembering that a lot of people have wrapped their identity around their ethnicity. And having to acknowledge that their ethnicity does not carry great things in their bloodline is going to be quite shocking and very upsetting. So let them be triggered, but do not respond in the same manner. Okay? Now, we've got balance. Clarify balance, or give me more information about balance. Again, the katana, Libra, Mars. So it's about, how do I put this? 7 of Teacups, Cancer, Neptune again. It's about having to be very objective. A lot of the things that you're going to discover are possibly going to horrify you, and you may, like when I first learned about them, I was filled with a very specific type of rage. And I didn't know what to do with all that. Channel it into action. Do not channel it into being angry at the people who look like the ones who did those things. Because a lot of the people now had nothing to do with that. But you do want to educate them. Because like I once upon a time, and it's so embarrassing to admit this, but I have to admit it. I once upon a time believed the statistics. I believed that my community, because I'm brown, my community and the black community, we were a problem. And I was always like, we've got to, anytime I came across somebody that was Mexican, I was like, we've got to do better. We've got to be a better community, because I believed that we were a problem until I started studying and educating myself. And then I was like, are we the problem though? What the fuck? So when you do get to the point where you finally understand how either your ancestry or others' ancestry has affected the current global view or the way things stand now, process it. Use that energy to fuel you, but stay in the Libra energy. Stay in the, okay, how can I use this knowledge that I now have to educate others without attacking them, without, launching into a fit of telling them off and calling them a piece of shit and all these, instead of doing all that, because honestly, a lot of the people now did not have anything to do with these things, and they're not even aware that these things happened. How can I use this to move this new world forward? And then collaborate. I think that this is very much about keeping in touch, because at some point I believe that the internet and phone lines, a lot of things will come down. So we're gonna have to find ways to stay in touch with each other so that we know we're not alone. Okay? Clarify, collaborate. 8 of Spears, Aries, Pluto. With the arrows, Sagittarius, Mars. This is a couple of things. First of all, the first thought that came to my mind with the 8 of Spears, Aries, Pluto is war. But then the arrows, Sagittarius, Mars, it's a very fiery energy, but I don't know that it means immediate war. I'm also feeling the pen is also mightier than the sword type of energy. So maybe it's like a intellectual type of war. We are going to have to be battling against a lot of lies, against a lot of misinformation. Because again, something I've noticed with people who support the current administration is that they don't know how to research. they don't know how to go and bring an article that is a valid article that actually has studies to support it when they want to make a point. It's always coming from a very emotional place. It's not coming from an educated place. So we want to make sure that we are attacking the ideas that they present and not the person themselves. Okay? Clarify, speak. 9 of Geodes, Virgo, Mars, and 9 of Spears, Aries, Jupiter. Overall energy, 8 of Goblets, Pisces, Saturn. Yeah. 8 of Goblets is like the 8 of Cups. It's very much the world that we've known up until now will not last. And we're going to start seeing a lot of things that we were like, you know, how do I put this? Racism has always been around, right? It never really fully went away. Profiling, racially profiling people, all of the things behind it has been very subtle, but it's been there. And regardless of how many marches have been held, regardless of how many reforms have been implemented, it's not gone. And so this is the time where it needed to happen this way. It needed to be where the people in power were giving other people the confidence to expose themselves, so that we know just how many people actually had that mentality and they were just hiding it because it wasn't socially acceptable. They knew it wasn't socially acceptable, but now they're going to be saying it with their whole chest. Pay attention. If some of the people, because, okay, I believe as controversial and weird as this may sound, I believe that someone who's racist can change. I believe that they are not inherently evil. I think that they are just people who have a very, they don't have a lot going for them. I'm going to be clear. They don't have a lot when it comes to terms of personality, when it comes to identity. They don't really have a lot. The only identity they have is their ethnicity. And that's why it makes them feel better to let someone else know my ethnicity is superior than yours, because that's all they've got going for them. The people, that's why I said the people who are open-minded, the people who are educated, the people who have an expansive way of seeing the world would never use that argument, because they have seen the beauty in other cultures, the amazement that comes from other mentalities, from other lifestyles. They would never say that they are superior to others, because they understand that there's so much beauty in the world that they had never even encountered. So this is the time to put yourself out there and acknowledge that the world will never be the same. And instead of yearning for how things were, we're going to have to run forward and not look back. Be of service to the world. But understand that you are going to get pushback. And so you're going to have to be very sure. When you speak up, you're going to have to be very sure. You're going to have to be very confident. Don't let people bully you. I don't see that, first of all. I don't see you being bullied. I see people fighting back. I see people disagreeing with you passionately. But as long as you attack the idea and not the person, remember, you will get that energy back. So remind people, I don't see you as an evil person. I think that the idea you are conveying is harmful. Yes, but I think you can be reasoned with, because you are a human and we all can change. We've all thought and believed things that were not good for ourselves and for everyone. So this is going to be a major change. I'm going to stop part 1 here before I clarify the cards. That'll be on part 2. So if you are on Patreon, then you will see part 2. If not, from now on, Patreon has allowed me to individually sell the videos. So you will start seeing the posts available for sale. And if you're interested, you just go to Patreon and watch that one video. Okay? Love you guys, and I will see you on the other side. Bye-bye.